All right. So we good to go here, Frankie? Should I wait for you?
Yeah, Frank, you want to come to it?
Your son's a big fan of our website.
He's a big fan of you, yeah.
I've tried to get, even before this started, I was trying to get a retweet out of him for about 6 months.
Well, we'll do that.
He kept, well, you got me on one,
We'll
but he'd
do that.
DM me, I'd be like, get the old man to get a retweet and get the numbers up.
Oh.
We'll talk business.
Well, you're doing pretty well on that.
Yeah, so are you.
Yeah, we did have good numbers.
So I consider myself, believe it or not, apolitical. I don't consider myself wildly Republican, Democrat, kind of down in the middle. In fact, this is my first interview I've ever done. So I started at the top.
You started very well. That's good.
And I was going to give you the heads up. I don't know if you're going to remember this. You once were on Ali G's show, and you were the only one that sniffed out that was a fake interview in the whole thing. I don't know if you remember that.
That's right.
I thought maybe you'd be like, oh, this guy's a fake.
Now,
Anyways,
were you involved with that show in some way?
No, not at all. I just watched it on TV.
But you're right. I was the only one. All
30
these
seconds, in and
guys,
out. I know.
I said, hey, this guy's a total fraud, and I left.
And
then
everyone
I
else
found
sits there
out.
for 6 hours. I know. I
You're
almost
the only
gave
one
that
that's ever given me credit for that.
That was a very sharp move because
Well, thank you.
he's pretty good at that. He gets everybody.
I like this interview. No matter what he does, I like this interview now, Mariana. That's right. I said, what's going on with this guy? And I just felt it was a phony deal.
Yeah.
And,
And nobody else did it. Nobody else smelled
And
it
he
out.
said he was from British Broadcasting Corporation. They called up with everything beautiful, the voice, this is British Broadcast. And then this guy shows up. I said, this is, but within a very short, like immediately. And thank you very much. You gave me
On it.
because I
Good.
never get credit for anything.
I'm
Dave.
pretty good. That's what I'm
You're
saying.
pretty good.
And here's part of it, which and I hate politics. My dad loves politics. The thing that drives me nuts is I feel like for us, which is good,
Right.
they're like, hey Dave, you're a snowflake. Hey Dave, you're a conservative, like crazy person. And almost on each side, you can predict what somebody's going to say, which drives me nuts. It's
Yeah.
like you put it in a box. So one of the things that I've been thinking about, and for all the people like me, which is I think a good amount of the country is still like, which way am I going to vote?
Right.
One of the things that I have a question for, and again, I think it matters. I'm very curious on the answer. So when the Kaepernick thing started, I was critical of it. And as it's continued, baseball players now, I heard you say, if they kneel, you'll turn the game off.
Yeah.
And we got the Black Lives Matter protests. So for me, it's like, how does somebody who's dissatisfied, in your world, what's the way for them to show it? Because we don't want them looting and doing all the stuff they're doing. To me, that's like a silent protest that is far better than going on the streets and create crime. So I'm curious, what would you do if you had an issue with the country or something to show your displeasure?
Well, I mean, you can always say you run for office, right? You become successful. You can run for a lower office. You can do things. But there are ways. You get groups together, and there can be very friendly ways of doing it, very successful. I mean, you're going to have rebounds, negative rebounds, if it keeps up the way it is. Like, as an example, Portland, this is crazy. 51 days, we sent in very powerful, not military, but very strong people. The police are good, but they were told not to do anything, by the radical left mayor. No, you have to go out and you have to say, and speak your mind is good. I think speaking your mind is good, but you have to do it fairly. We are for justice, but we're for law and order. It's got to be law and order, and there is law and order. I put something out when they were starting to rip down statues. I went out, I found an old law, an old bill. You couldn't get it passed today. You get 10 years in jail, 10 years and no games. And we have a lot of people in jail right now. If you rip down a statue, a federal statue, because the states have to take care of their own, unfortunately, because I do that too. But you rip down a federal statue, you get 10 years in jail. 10 years, no, 3 months. And nothing's happened since then. It was amazing. I signed it. I had a news conference. I said, if you do it, and we were supposed to have thousands of people march on Washington that day. Nobody showed up.
How do we close the divide? Like at my age, it's like it just seems half the country hates the other half, and no matter what you say, you can't get along. So, and you're the lightning rod. There's no doubt about that. In my mind, do you agree with that? That you're like a lightning rod?
Sometimes for a purpose. I mean, but
how do we bring it together so the two sides right now that are heads can be like, you're my guy?
I think it was happening, and then we got hit by the China virus. Okay, I think it was happening. Success. Our country never did better. The best employment numbers in the history of our country, best unemployment numbers, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, everybody, best unemployment numbers in history, best stock market we've ever had, although I must tell you, as you know probably very well, the stock market's almost at the same level right now, which is a great
I
tribute.
wasn't watching it today. That's why I went down today. I've been killing the stock
But
market.
the stock market has been
Yep,
absolutely
great.
great.
Since
And a
March.
lot of things are happening. Great housing numbers the other day, great everything. We're doing really well. We're trying to get rid of the rest of this pandemic. But success does it, and we were ready to do it. Because if you look at when you say Hispanic or when you say African American, Asian American, they were all working. Everybody was making a lot of money. Everybody was doing good, and it was coming together. And then China sent us this horrible, bad present, a real bad present. They could have stopped it. They should have stopped it. And we made a deal. You know, we made a trade deal with China.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great deal, but it means much less to me now than it did then, because I'm not happy with what they've done to the world. They stopped it going into China from Wuhan, but they didn't stop it going into Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world. So, but we were ready to do it, and the word is success, and I think we're going to have that. I think we're going to have a great next year. We're going to have, I mean, you'll be able to see the results before the election, which is interesting, because at the very beginning of November, the election's November 3rd, at the beginning of November, the numbers are going to come out for the third quarter. And I predict those numbers are going to be really great, despite the fact that Democrats want to keep their areas closed because they want the numbers to be
right, they
bad. I mean, can you
politicized it.
imagine?
Yes.
That's, you know, I know how you feel about that.
Yep.
And part of the reason, I think a big part of the reason they do it is for politics.
I don't know that a Black Lives Matter person would be like, well, the economy, great, but we still want the president